Hi, welcome to Happier Ladies. We're sisters who discuss all things related to work, family, and personal growth.
We draw inspiration from everywhere, especially from you, our listeners, to keep moving forward with joy and laughter in the big adventure that is life.
1 week at a time.
I'm Azizi Williams. I live and work in the LA area. I'm a mom of 2 adult children, and I'm an education professional in the independent school world. I'm here with my sister, Malika Amandi.
That's me. I'm a SoCal native living in Western Massachusetts, a mom of 2 littles, and I work in higher ed. In this episode, we discuss a shortcut to happy, and then I talk to money mentor Katy, Chen, Mazzara.
But first, Malika, as we record this, tomorrow is sort of the beginning of the end of summer. And
Okay.
we said goodbye to Sinai. She went back to school.
Oh my goodness.
Last night. Ilea starts school tomorrow.
What?
And I go back to work tomorrow. So all of us.
Wow.
I know. It's like everyone's going back to school. And, August, I've said this before, August is the end of summer, actually, in my profession. And so there's some amount of trying to zhuzh and prepare and, get the space ready. And so I decided to do refrigerator zero. If you remember,
Okay.
clear everything
this was the
out,
goal.
start from scratch. So we cleared most things out. And I also decided it was time to let go of the spending kingdom of condiments. I think that's what I called it. I don't know if you remember.
How could I forget?
Do you remember that? We've had it for a couple of years.
I made one in my own house because I was inspired. The Lazy Susan in the fridge,
Lazy
right?
Susan. We had a massive Lazy Susan and just so many condiments. And it drove Ilea crazy. And I have to say, it did take up a lot of space. So what happens is that condiments would go there and then just die. And they would never get used, or it's hard to find. Even though you could spin it, things would just end up on top of them because there was no space anywhere else. So I'm moving on. It's okay. Pulled it out.
Did you do it already?
I did.
How does it feel?
It's a little sad, but I have to say, I replaced it with a very beautiful tray. So now I have a John Darien tray that I got a while ago that's beautiful and colorful. Doesn't spin. It does take up, it's like a more logical fitting thing for the refrigerator because it is, rectangular. But I don't know, we'll see. And now, listen, maybe there's new life for this large Lazy Susan. Where's it going to go next? I don't know.
So is the idea with the tray that you would take it out to look for condiments and then put it back in?
It takes up less space.
Okay, but you just leave it in there.
The tray just stays in there. I like a tray. Right? It contains things.
Right, but the issue is things getting lost or stuff getting put on top of things.
Right. I think the Lazy Susan that I had was too big and took up too much space in the refrigerator. So you couldn't, that whole shelf, you couldn't get good use around it or sufficient use around it. And also, I think visually having a smaller space, we can stick to it, one in, one out. You can't just keep loading up the condiments. You have to let go of things that aren't working. So we'll see. I'll report back, but it's just the end of an era.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Yes, you have to be flexible and willing to change. That's the journey of life we're in. We're back with Shortcut to Happy, where we share a simple strategy that will make you happier. And Malika has some news involving a yoga mat.
Yes. So I think I shared that I've been going to yoga regularly again, which I feel very good about. And the yoga studio I go to, they have this little cubby wall, inside the studio, I guess the main check-in area, but not inside the yoga room. Little wall of cubbies big enough for a yoga mat and maybe a block or something. And you can sign up for a cubby. It's free to keep your yoga mat there. You just tell them which cubby you want and they write it down and then it's your cubby. And then you never have to tote your yoga mat around. Now, when I saw this first time, I was like, oh, that's cool, but I'm going to need my yoga mat at home for all the home yoga that I do. But it turns out I don't actually do it at home very much. And when I do, there is another yoga mat around, you
I was gonna
know?
say, you can just get another yoga mat. You don't need to be so precious with your mat.
Also, I can just do it on the floor. Or
That's
the
true. A towel or a blanket.
So, I decided to, like once I was like, "Okay, I'm coming to this class every week, I might as well leave my yoga mat here."
Yeah.
And just psychologically, it feels so good just showing up and knowing that my stuff is there already. Like, somehow it makes it feel, like, easier for me to go, and I'm not sure why that I mean, Gretchen talks about, like, in her strategies for habit change, like, it's the strategy of convenience, right?
Mm,
It's one less thing that I have to think about, but I also feel like emotionally, it's like a piece of me that's already there.
mhm.
Like, I'm going to meet up with my yoga mat.
You have 1 foot in the door. I
One
get it.
foot in the door.
First of all, what an amazing service to provide. Like, that is just
Yes.
hauling the mat. It's not so terribly hard, but that does make it slightly more convenient. It's
Right.
removing some friction to getting to yoga. So
Yes.
that's wonderful that they have made a way for that to happen. I wish they had something like that at Orange Theory.
What would you keep there?
Maybe my shoes, my clothes. Like, yeah, I get it. At gyms, you can rent a locker, at other gyms, but that's not the case at Orange Theory. But I love that concept.
So this got me thinking because it's a pretty specific thing. You need a yoga mat to do the yoga. You can leave
Right.
your yoga mat there. But is there something else that we can make easier with this principle? So just my reflection question, like, is there a piece of you that you can put somewhere else? Or like, where can you go all in? So I'm all in at this studio because my yoga mat is there. I'm committed, right? I'm not going
Yeah.
to the Y yoga because I don't have whatever. You get it. I'm
Yes.
investing here.
Yes.
Where else do we see this in our lives?
Well, this is not quite related, but I did when you talked about, like, leaving a piece of you somewhere, I recently decided I knew that I needed to mix up my office at work. My desk that I inherited was facing the wall, and I wanted to turn and be able to look at people as they were coming in onto campus, and I also wanted a more flexible space where more people could join me at a table as opposed to a desk that's just for one. And
Mm,
so I decided to take my dining room table. We had a spare dining room table that we weren't actually using that mommy and daddy actually gave to me when I got my apartment when the girls were really young. And I decided to bring that into my office because it has a leave and like a really creative way it can expand or contract. And so instead of my desk, I moved that out and I moved this table in. And the bonus is that it's got little tiny drops of paint from Sinai when she was in her creative
aw.
painting era that at the time I remember really annoyed me, and now it's just like, "Oh, it feels like my kids are in this space with me in this way." So, not quite the same concept, but I definitely feel like I'm more there now with this table in my office also.
Hmm. That's so funny with the paint drops. I can imagine things
Ah,
like that
it was
where
such an era.
yeah, and now it's just like precious
Yes.
memories.
It's nostalgic.
That's cool. That's a good repurposing. It does sound like it is kind of an emotional anchor too.
Well, there's some comfort there now
Yeah.
and, like, a bit more of who I am in the space that I spend so much time at, so, yeah, it's nice. I also am thinking about Orange Theory again, like, and
Okay.
I should go all in. I mean, that's something Liz talked about also, and going all in Orange
Yeah.
Theory is buying passes, multiple passes or
Right.
monthly passes, and maybe that's something that I should do also.
The other example that comes up for me is kind of also a fitness
Yeah,
thing. There was this season, this was like, I think the year after I graduated from college. I was living in LA, but I was like close enough to work where I could walk. And I used the gym at work, like I was working at a college campus. And I decided to keep all of my like nice shower stuff at the gym.
that's amazing. First of all, that you walk to work in LA. That's like,
I
who does
know.
that? And then you had a spare shower there to use.
And I was in a very, like, fitness moment
Mhm.
season, like, this was a time when I was doing Weight
Yeah.
Watchers, I was, like, really in it, and so I was trying to do everything to get my movement up, and I did take most of my showers
Wow.
there at the
Yeah.
gym, and I swam, my swimsuit was there,
Yeah, you
like,
lived
it
there.
was
You lived
just
at the gym. That was your other home.
exactly. It was a 3rd space.
That was the 3rd space.
Yeah, I can't conceive of that right now, but it was a good
Yeah.
time. It was a g
But you're
effective
doing it. I mean,
strategy.
that's what the yoga mat is. You're like, in a small
It
way,
is
that's what you're doing. It works.
once a week, but I think it was, like, having the nice stuff too. I think Gretchen has talked about that also,
Yeah.
like so this other example that comes to mind, and now I don't even know what we're like, this feels
Are we
like a different
digressing?
realm, but I think it's in the same way. So, when I was pregnant with Quincy, I learned that there was where I work, there's a health benefit when you're in your 3rd trimester, you can get premium parking
Mm,
or parking that's closer to your building, wherever you
yeah,
are on campus. So I took advantage of this, and it wasn't like I had a spot with my name on it, like a reserved spot just for
yeah,
me, but it felt different coming to work knowing that I was allowed to be in this particular special parking
yeah.
lot. I don't wanna say it made me go to work more or less because
You
that's
went to
not
work the right
true.
amount of time.
I had to go anyway, but I could imagine if you had, like, your own parking spot somewhere, some businesses do that. You see reserved spots for people with their name,
That's a huge perk.
that could make you feel more comfortable or yeah, I mean, it's just convenient, more convenient to go. You don't have to think about where you're gonna
Yes.
park.
We're talking about things that make it a little more convenient. I
Okay,
think
that's
that's
the
the
theme.
umbrella. What's something that you can proactively do that can make going somewhere a little more convenient? And especially if it's someplace that maybe is not always easy to get to, right? Or has some barriers. So I have a Disneyland example because you actually, when we talked about this, you were like, "Well, what about Disneyland?" It's like, I don't know, but we went and I decided to pay for the VIP parking. And because we have the pass, it's just $20. And that gets you
Okay,
right at the gate to get on the bus to drive to Disneyland. It's not like there's still a journey, but it gets you closer to the journey. And it felt so good. It really felt good. It's only $20. And so I'm gonna do this more often. I'm gonna
yeah,
pay up and not have to cross the Sahara Desert to get on the bus.
it makes it easier coming and going?
So to get to Disneyland, the parking lot that we park at is called the Toy Story parking lot. There's a whole science behind Mickey and Friends or Toy Story parking lot, which one you go to. Mickey and Friends is the one that has a little tram. That's kind of fun, but
Mhm,
that's a whole other line. The Toy Story is further away and you have to get on a bus that takes you several blocks to get to Disneyland. And so the benefit is that the parking is faster, but you have to walk longer to get to the bus area.
got it.
Short story.
So now with the VIP parking
You're just right by the bus. You're not like traversing, like imagine a huge mall parking lot and you're all the
got
way
it.
on the other side of it.
Yeah,
Like, especially at the end of the day, psychologically, like walking half a mile after you've walked 12, you know, it's just psychologically feels a little easier.
okay. So, I think another what did we call this? These are
Strategies to make things a little bit easier.
I thought I was coming in with a really specific lens here, and it's not so specific.
We broadened it a little.
We've broadened it out. So, we have a membership at, like, 3 children's museums in the area. There are 3 children's museums in the
And
area.
you are members of all of
We
them.
have them.
Got
Yes.
it. You cornered the market of children's museums.
That is something that definitely makes going easier because the stakes are lower when you go. If you spend an hour or and the way that the pricing works out, it's like if you're gonna go twice with your whole
Just
family,
go
you
on.
should just get the membership.
Yeah,
But I think it does feel this is another thing, it's just, like, good to be a member.
right.
It feels good to be a
Yeah.
member, to just say your last name, they look you up, "Come on
Welcome
in."
back. That's what they say.
But we use it. I mean, we do use them, and it takes out the guesswork of like, should we go? Is it worth it? That being said, I was at the library today, and this has come up before. I don't know if we've talked about it, but definitely Gretchen has talked about it. The library, they have memberships that you can check out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for pretty much any local museum that you can borrow for a week.
Wow.
You just have to be like that requires forethought.
Right, because it's just a week. And then you might have to make a
Right.
reservation to the thing, right? To, like, the museum, if they have a timed entry.
Maybe if they have a time entry, yeah. But a lot of them are just, it's as if you were a member. The library is a member, and they
Ah,
have this special membership that they can give to whoever checks it out.
that's so cool. Now, you already have all the memberships, though.
This is true for the children's museums, but there are other art
Ah,
museums like Mass MoCA, and
well, that might be for the next time we're out there.
yeah, that could be cool. But something for you to look at in LA
I
too.
know. I have museums on my list, but man, haven't gotten to that. Well, I have one more, like, just feels good to join example.
Okay.
This one is the furthest away from where we started, I think, this example. But we did recently become members of PBS, the public
Okay.
broadcasting station, because I really wanted to watch the American Revolution documentary by Ken Burns. It's like, it's America's 250th anniversary. Let's just double down. How did this all start? Where did this begin? I like Hamilton, and I did read the autobiography of Benjamin Franklin and the biography of Benjamin Franklin. It's interesting to me. We were in Boston. We saw some things, up
Yeah.
close. And so, like, okay, let's just find out how to stream it. And it was a whole faff because it's not just there. You have to kind of dig and then you have to join. But what's great about it, first of all, it's supporting, public broadcasting. And also, there's a sliding scale. So I think it's anywhere from like $5 and up, whatever you
Mhm.
can commit to a month, which was accessible and affordable. And it just feels good to be a part of that. So now I have more watching to do. I've watched one episode. I got more to go.
Oh, how many is it?
I don't know. But yeah, got rid of a barrier to watch.
Well, if you have more to add to this, you listener,
Make sense of this
things that
conversation.
are making things easier and or a piece of you that's somewhere else, please let us know. happierladies@gmail.com. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we will talk to a friend of the pod. So, Azizi, because my word of the year is soft, I'm super excited to announce that we are partnering with Cozy Earth, and they have the softest pajamas ever.
What? Malika, you're usually a t-shirt and sweats girl, so this is quite an upgrade.
I know, I've up-leveled. Their bamboo stretch knit pajama set is amazing. It's so luxurious and comfortable, and they look great.
I've been sleeping on Cozy Earth's bamboo sheet set, and it's so soft, cool, and comfortable. They are an absolute delight. I'm done with scratchy sheets for good.
We all deserve to be surrounded by soft and beautiful items in our lives. Head to cozyearth.com and use our code HL20 for an exclusive 20% off. That's code HL20 for an exclusive 20% off. And if you see a post-purchase survey, mention that you heard about Cozy Earth on the Happier Ladies podcast.
The perfect lunch combo. That first bite of your favorite sub, followed by ice-cold Pepsi. Add a couple of friends, and now that's next level. Suddenly, the laughs get louder, the stories keep flowing, and the food tastes better. Because Pepsi brings out more flavor, more fun, and more of the moment. Food deserves Pepsi. Grab a Pepsi Zero Sugar today.
We're back with our next segment, Friend of the Pod, where we bring in someone from our lives to share their expertise. Malika, you have a special guest that you're going to interview today.
Yes, I am talking to money mentor Katy Chen Mazzara, who is a good friend and just all around wonderful, wise woman, and was recently on Happier in Hollywood.
Yeah, so exciting.
Yes. So I'll read Katie's bio. Katy Chen Mazzara is a trauma informed financial wellness coach who believes financial freedom isn't just about money. It's about having the freedom to make life decisions based on your values rather than fear. A graduate of UC Berkeley's personal financial planning program and trained in trauma informed coaching, she blends practical financial strategy with nervous system awareness to help people create lives rooted in freedom, purpose, and joy.
Oh, wow. I want life rooted in freedom, purpose, and joy. That
Yes.
sounds amazing. I'm not going to be there, but I have questions that I've given you. So please report back. I can't
Yes.
wait to hear her answers. But what a helpful, relevant, timely conversation to have.
Absolutely. I'm super excited to just talk a little bit more to Katie. As you know, we've talked about money quite a bit, you and I, and
Yes.
she is somebody who's just helped me over the years, like totally changed the way that I think about money and net worth, financial worth, all of that. So I think there is something here for all of
Oh,
us.
yeah. And it's, I mean, such an important part of all of everyone's lives. We can never, learn enough. There's always more to learn and know about this area. So I hope you guys have a great conversation. I can't wait to hear all about it.
Great. And here it is. Hi, Katie. How are you?
Hi, Malika. I'm so happy to be here.
Yay. I'm so happy that you're here too. I kind of feel like finally, even though it's on me to like contact you but I'm glad the timing has worked out and we can
Yeah,
have this conversation. You've been
me
referenced
too.
many times on our podcast journey, so it's good to have you in person.
Yeah, same.
So, can you just start by telling us a little bit about your backstory, how you became a coach and how you help people?
I was a freelance TV producer for over 15 years. And then as a freelance TV producer, when I first like started in the industry, I kind of didn't know how people did it, right? Like after my first show ended, I was a little bit like, how do people think about paying off debt, savings,
Mhm.
investing in your retirement, and even paying for your health insurance? Because in the industry, as a freelancer, you don't get anybody to help you to do any of that kind of stuff. You have to figure it out yourself. And if you don't know if you're going to have a paycheck in 2 months, how do you manage your money? Right. So then I went on a journey to kind of figure it out for myself. And then once I did, a lot of my coworkers started to say, like, you're really good with your money and you don't seem to
Mhm.
worry about it, even when you're not working. How do you do that? Right. And so I was like, okay, there's something here. And so I went back to school to UC Berkeley and got a financial planning certification in financial planning, but then realized it's not just about understanding like the textbook version of how to be good with your money,
Mhm.
right? Because otherwise we can all just read a book like, Money for Dummies or something and
Mhm.
be good at it. Instead, there's like a lot of emotional layers and then how we kind of grew up and what we absorbed as we grew up. And so then I went back and got a trauma informed coaching certification so that I can really go deep with clients and for myself too, right? And then to understand how those things that we heard and absorbed in our childhoods really affect us today. And then also how our emotions affect how we spend, how we do things,
Mhm.
and to be able to make different decisions in our lives. And I also have a pretty personal reason that I do this work as well, is also because I have known 3 women in my life who stayed in abusive relationships and situations. because they didn't have money. They didn't
Mm.
work outside the home. They had young children they were taking care of. So they felt really stuck in their situation. And because of that, I have been on this mission to really help people to make decisions not based on money, right? To be able to say, okay, I can get out of this situation. Even if you haven't gone through an abusive relationship, right, or marriage, but maybe you're in a job that you don't really like, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so, how can you make a decision not just based on money, not based on like, well, I have to keep this job in order to pay the bills, but instead to say, okay, I have the freedom because I have savings, because I have investments, and now I can actually move on from that situation that isn't great for me.
I think it's so powerful, the work that you do, blending the practical kind of aspect of money management with the emotional side, because there aren't a lot of people doing that. And I think when you and I started working together, I felt like I had a complex around I just am not smart with money, or just I had a narrative like I'm just not good with money, right? But I didn't have the
Mm.
tools to kind of get under that and understand where that came from, and to even be able to just label that as a story and kind of
Mhm.
create a new one. And I think that,
Mhm.
I was very much in the starving artist kind of cycle and really had this belief of like the less I had, the more kind of serious I was about my craft somehow. Or like,
Mm.
you hear the stories of like somebody's living in their car and then they make it big, and that you kind of internalize like that's what you have to do. You have to be living in your
Right.
car and you don't.
Right. Right.
So I really appreciate your really holistic approach. And I can just say, as
Mm.
a client, as a
Mm.
beneficiary of your work, it's really powerful. It's helped me individually, it's helped Norm and I together and our family. And I think coming from that lens of freedom is just really different than a lot of the stories around making as much money as you can, or even
Right.
security, or just some of the other narratives that are out there. I think just the ability to have choices and live the life that you want, to make choices from a values place instead of just because of your
Yes.
bank account is really powerful.
Exactly.
So, Katie, you've probably heard Azizi and I talk about money a number of times
Yes,
in different
I
ways.
have.
We put together some questions for you.
Okay.
So the first one is just, what are your thoughts on budgeting? Do we need budget?
Mm.
I feel like we need them, but I go back and forth. Is this something I can actually do? It's not a tool that has really worked for me in the past, but is that because I can't follow the rules? Or is it just not, I'm sure every financial advisor has a different take on this. But from your
Yes.
expert perspective and what you've seen with your clients, give us some intel. Where do you stand on budgets?
I actually do not believe in budgets.
Okay.
And here's why. I mean, I think that there are some things that, are good about budgets per se, like when you kind of logically think about it, because when you're thinking about a budget, you're thinking about, okay, here's how much money I make. And so now I want to assign a dollar for every dollar I make. Here is an assignment for that
Mhm.
dollar, right? And so logically, that sounds good. However, if we really think about it, we're really trying to get all of the money that you're making down to zero in that budget,
Mhm.
in that spreadsheet or the app or whatever you're tracking it on, right? And so, because you're coming down to zero at the end of the month, there's a mindset still rooted in scarcity
Mm.
when it comes to budgeting. And the other thing I don't love is you're telling yourself this is how much money I want to have with eating out this month,
Mhm.
right? This is how much money I can have to buy coffee this month or go out for entertainment. And so then what happens if you go over that, right? Like, let's say you have a line in your budget because you really care about going to concerts, right? And then this month is Coachella. I know that Azizi
Yes.
spent a lot of time in Coachella, right? And you spent a lot more money because you wanted to get the VIP. But the next month, you're not spending all of that money, right? So what do you do when it comes to that side of things, right? And then also, do you beat yourself up if you overspend in that category? Right. So then there's a little bit of this punishing cycle that we get
Yes.
into with budgets. And that's what I don't love about it. Instead, what I do like, though, is the idea of tracking,
Okay.
right? Tracking your money so that you become more conscious of what is happening. And tracking is simply like you can make a list. You can just say at the end of the month, I'm going to just look at and write down and put them into categories and say, okay, this is how much money I spent on food. This is how much money I spent on going out,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this is how much for everything, right? So that you actually just see it. You see how much you brought in, and then you see how much went out, and without making any judgments about it. And then you also have a choice to make, right? So now that you see it, you're more empowered to make different choices and say, okay, well, I see that I spent a lot of money on food this month. How much of it went to groceries? How much of it went to eating out? And how much of it went to delivery? Like for me, that's a huge category for
Mm-hmm.
me. I love new experiences and, going to find new restaurants. And so that is actually some place that I do want to spend money. However, delivery may not be, right? Delivery for me is just like me being lazy and not wanting
Mm-hmm.
to cook. And so then I have an empowered choice and say, okay, I can actually cut back on the delivery part and say to myself this month, if I'm not eating out, if I'm not going out to a restaurant, then that is not an expense that I want to make,
Okay.
right? And yeah, it becomes more of an empowering choice rather than being kind of a chained to this arbitrary budget, right? That's
Yeah.
trying to tell you what to do and what not to do and whether you're good or bad based on what you did.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, just the good and bad, the morality language, right? It's so strong around money. And it reminds me of diet culture, right? Of like,
Yes,
if I eat what's on this list or whatever, I'm good. If I don't, I'm bad. And there's
exactly.
the whole movement of like intuitive eating. And I feel like your
Right.
approach is more aligned with that, you
Yes,
know?
it's more like that. And then the tracking is more like, okay, well, I just ate this thing. How did it make me
Right.
feel? And it's the same thing. If I spent money on this also, like it's a great way to track and see how did that make me feel, right? Or what was happening while you spent that thing? Like if I
Yes.
in an emotional state, do I go online automatically and like buy a bunch of stuff that I really don't need,
Yeah.
you know? Like more skincare products or something,
Yeah.
right?
It feels like the kind of process that you advocate for, it really requires you to pay attention to your relationship. And that's more grown up in a lot of ways. And it can also be harder because how do you feel underneath those choices?
Yes.
But it's also, I think, invites more compassion also for ourselves and like why we're doing things.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, I mean, it does take a little bit more work to because it's so much easier to just avoid our
Yeah.
emotions, but it's so important that we kind of take a look underneath it all, right? Because so many of our decisions are sometimes based on that,
Yeah.
right? Like I had a friend who said to me, she was like, "Yeah, I was going to Starbucks every single day after work." And spending a lot of money on something that was really sugary and not so good for me. But I felt like I deserved it because it was just a hard day,
Hmm.
right? And then once she realized and became more conscious that it wasn't just like a thing that she did to reward herself, but in fact, she was creating this habit that she actually didn't want,
Hmm.
then she could make a different choice, right? And then she started to, like, after work, she would just go to the beach. She lived near the beach and would go and walk her dog,
Hmm.
on the beach, right? And that became a different way of dealing with the stresses of the day
Hmm.
rather than something that just felt like a quick dopamine hit.
Yeah. I feel like I've been in that paradigm and I've made the choice like, I will have this treat. Like, this is what I want, you know? But it's coming from a conscious place, instead of
Exactly.
something I do and then regret later.
Exactly.
So, Okay. When it comes to tracking, I know that you use a spreadsheet or you mentioned spreadsheets. This is an area that I'm wanting to like build my muscles in because I know the value of it when I do it. And yet it's been hard to kind of make it a habit. Azizi and I both love journaling, paper, lists, all of that. Do you have any suggestions for us? How can we use our love of
Yes.
paper, analog, tracking other things? How can we apply this to our like money relationship?
Yeah. Well, let's start with journaling because I love journaling and I love giving prompts and journaling
Mm-hmm.
prompts. And I know that you do too. And I think that journaling is one of the best ways to get that unconscious to the conscious, especially when you're writing it out by hand,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like so many times when you're just writing stuff down by hand and you're letting things flow and not allowing yourself to stop, right? Then a lot of stuff comes up that you're like, oh, I didn't even realize that that was a story,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I still do it and I still uncover things all the time about my money journey, right? And so it's like even just starting with the idea of, okay, well, what were things like in my childhood? And of course, we're not blaming our parents for this, right? And I've worked with people who are sisters, right? And who are, siblings, and they grew up in the same way, and yet they see money in a very different way, mainly because we all absorb things in a different way. Some of us are more sensitive. Like I'm much more sensitive than my brother. And so the things that we both experienced in our childhood may have affected me in a very different way than it affected my brother,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so right now, when you're just writing, you're just uncovering. You're just uncovering those stories and how it affected you, right? So it's like, what did your parents do? What did your grandparents do? How did they act around money, right? Because as children, we don't really understand the concept of money, but we just absorb that energy, right? My dad was always stressed out, before tax day, right? Until midnight that night, he would be like working on his taxes and freaking out. And then if you went even close to him, he would just like bite your head
Mm-hmm.
off. My parents fought about money all the time. I have a grandmother on my dad's side who was very well off, and yet she was so paranoid, like people were out to steal her money, right? And then those stories became an unconscious part of me that in my 20s, I like as soon as money came in, it went out. At the end of every single month, it was like $5 in my bank account, or maybe I was overdrawn on my bank account every single month, right? In my early 20s, early to mid 20s. And it was mainly because I had this story, this unconscious story that I did not want to be like them. I didn't want money to be a thing. So then as soon as money came in, of course it would go out because I didn't want it,
Mm-hmm.
right? I was like pushing it away constantly. And so this is the process of uncovering, right? So just starting by journaling, understanding where those things are coming from and seeing if there's any patterns that emerge when you're writing, and then starting to make the conscious decision about what you really want, right? To do and not to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it comes to the list, I think that's a great place if you both love lists, right? That's how you can even start with the tracking and not have to do a spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's always necessary to have a spreadsheet because spreadsheets can feel kind of boring or intimidating or just like another chore
Mm-hmm.
to have to do, right? But instead, it's like starting to get curious. Like, what did I do this? How did things work out this month? And just like taking a look in your checking account, on your bank statements and your credit card statements, and then just putting them into categories, right? Like having fun with it. There is an app called the Fleur app that a lot of creatives really like too, because it's literally a tracking thing,
Okay.
right? And so then you can use that too to kind of like categorize all of your expenses, right? And then the app is cool because it's just like it'll connect it to your bank account and then you can just put them into the different categories,
Okay.
for you,
Uh,
right? And it's just kind of taking a look at that and getting curious as to, oh, that was interesting that, or it can also be like, here's a cool look back on our fun month,
Mm.
right? This month we went to this place and this
Hmm.
place. And yes, we did spend some money, but that's great because we got to do all of these cool things. There's a line in, I think, Breakfast at Tiffany's, that movie, where she goes and visits this guy in prison. And then she writes down all of her income and her expenses just in a
Hmm.
list. And then he's like, oh, this book could tell stories.
Yeah, they have these, I think there's, like, TikTok accounts or whatever that, like, what I spend in a day, like a New Yorker, and,
Yeah.
like, you learn so much
Yes.
about people, right, from just
Exactly.
looking at their
Exactly.
statements. I like the curiosity lens, and I
Mhm.
think
Mhm.
it's funny because one of my 26 for 26 items is to romanticize financial tracking.
Mhm.
So, I like this coming from a memory perspective, memory keeping
Yes.
and, like,
Yes.
sifting through the lens of experience and also just how I felt over the course of the month, and I can
Mhm.
envision, like, maybe, like, a journaling practice that involves,
Mhm.
like, certain prompts, but lists, and I do appreciate the freedom to move off of the computer, like, that to me feels like, yeah, it's serious, it's money, it's a spreadsheet. I don't have any problem with spreadsheets in general, but I think
Mhm.
a spreadsheet with, like, all the numbers it's not romantic to me, you know? Which is like,
Right. It's not.
I the
Totally
one
get it.
hand, it's like, well, not everything has to be romantic, and I wanna figure out how to make this something I actually wanna do and can sustain,
Yeah.
right? So,
Right. Right, exactly. That's what I like about that Fleur app too, because they make it, like, really pretty. I mean, obviously, the name
yeah,
Fleur means flower in French, and, yeah, they have, like, floral designs and everything in it. But I also think that, yeah, just doing it in a journal, right? You can draw and you can create while you're making the
yeah,
list and seeing what happened in the last month.
I like it. Do you have any kind of tips or suggestions around the way that we talk about money around our kids? Obviously, we have the individual experiences of what our parents said and how that impacted us that we're, you know, processing now. And what suggestions do you have for being proactive about helping our kids relate to money in a positive way? Like for me, 1 and 3 years old, they're in a certain place. For Azizi, my nieces are in their late teens, early 20s. What are some things that we can do to kind of nudge our children in a positive direction?
The first thing that we can do is have our own great relationship with money, right? Like, because of the things that we just talked
Mhm.
about, that, kids they don't really understand the concept of money and they're just absorbing things and how you deal with money, right? So, the better your relationship is
Mhm.
with your money, then they will have a similar feeling about it. And so that's the best first place to start, no matter how old your children are, right? And then the next thing is, I think, like, for younger children, I like a couple of things. So I like that assigning, like, dollars to chores,
Okay.
right? Like, your children are a little young for the chores, but I think 4 is probably a good age to even start. So,
Okay.
they're getting there. And mainly because, like, instead of just giving an allowance, like, then
Hmm.
again, children are not understanding money, right? Because they're just
Mm.
like, I'm given this money to do with
Yes.
whatever I want. And that's not how the real world works, really. And so we're kind of doing a disservice there too, right? But instead, it's like, okay, of course, they can have their chores, the chores that you think, okay, they should be doing anyway, right? But then on top of that, then the chores can have a dollar value assigned to them based on how challenging it is to do
Okay.
those things, right? So then they have a concept of understanding, okay, I'm earning the money, I'm working
Yeah.
through, and then I also have autonomy and can decide if I want to do those
Hmm.
chores, right? And if I want to make money, because sometimes I don't, right? Sometimes I'm like, okay, I don't care about that,
Yeah.
right? But other times I do. And then on top of that, I like the idea of having jars, especially in the beginning, when they're really young, to be able to visually see the money
Yeah.
going into jars, right? And one jar can be for more immediate stuff, more immediate satisfaction, right? So then they can take a little bit of that money to the store with you, right? When you go to the store with them, like if you're going to Target or
Mhm.
something, right? They can take that money and say, oh, yeah, I want to buy a little Matchbox car with it, or I want to get, a piece of candy if you're allowing them to have that, right? So then they have, again, an understanding that, okay, this is my money and I can choose
Yeah.
and decide what I want to do with it, right? And then the second jar, I like it to be more of a long term thing, right? So in long term, for younger kids, just means like, okay, for your birthday or for Christmas or for something bigger,
Yeah.
right? Like a bigger, more expensive item. Or for older kids, it can be like, okay, a trip that they're planning to take, right? I think I remember you telling me about in high school or something that there was a trip to
Oh, yeah.
Morocco or somewhere,
Yeah, I went to
right?
Morocco.
Yeah. Right. And then it's those kinds of things. If like your parents are saying, no, I'm not going to pay for all of it, it's a good place to like show them that they can also save up for those longer term things,
Mhm.
or bigger items. Right. And that's also a place where you and Norm can actually add to as well. Right. Because for us, in the real world, like sometimes we work for companies that will give us,
Mhm.
a matching 401k or something like that. So then, there's an equal contribution to it, right? So that is actually a cool thing for them to see as well. And then a third jar, I like to see for them to be able to give away something that they care about for a cause or for somebody that they want to help in any way. Then they have this third jar where they can put money into to be able to help. And that helps them to understand too that as money comes in, we also can give,
Mhm.
right? And be generous and have stewardship.
I love that. I mean, it's so thoughtful and it is mirroring the way money works, right? A little house
Hmm.
economy.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
I haven't figured out chores yet for Indy, but I've got some ideas.
Yeah. Okay, good.
And he's very I already know this, like, we just have done the potty training thing, and, the thing that tipped the balance was, like, M&Ms. He didn't wanna
Yeah.
do it, and then, like, once there was clear incentive, he was very
Right.
motivated by that. So I think
Yes.
I like being able to bring that in and in a way that I know is, like, gonna be helping him, uh,
Mhm.
yeah, kind of develop a healthy relationship to money.
Absolutely. Yep. And I think for adult children, right? I mean, not for teens, but for adult children, like who are out of the house, I think it's actually great for you to be a safety net, but still allow them to fail. Mainly because, like, at that age, you're starting to learn about how the world works in a real way, right? And then if you're constantly getting bailed out, you're not learning that lesson
Yeah.
as quickly as you could unless you're able to fail and say, okay, that wasn't a good thing,
Yeah.
thing that I needed to do, right? I was just talking to cousin's child the other day, and he's in college, and he overslept one day and missed and also put something in his calendar, forgot to put it in his calendar, and he missed his final.
Wow.
And then he went to his teacher, and the teacher was like, "Nope, you failed." Right? And that's a hard lesson, and yet he will never forget that
Yeah.
ever
Yeah.
again. And in fact, he'll probably be early on time
Right.
for his finals and for everything else the rest of his life.
Yeah.
And that's when I think in our 20s is when we should be building that resiliency, right? Like, I think if I hadn't gone down that path of like being overdrawn in my bank accounts and all of those things in my 20s, I actually wouldn't even be doing what I'm doing now,
Yeah.
right? It's like those lessons are the things that I needed to learn,
Yeah.
in order to be where I am.
I think that's one of the hardest parts about being a parent because
Yes.
you want to save your children and you
Yes.
don't want to see them go through hard things ever. But I
Absolutely.
love that perspective and just having the restraint or to be a safety net, right? Like, which is
Yes.
the last
You're the
thing,
safety net.
you know?
Like, you're still letting them walk the
Yeah.
wire, right? You're letting them walk the wire, but if they fall off the wire, you're there to catch them. The safety net is there so that they're not going to get majorly hurt or anything.
Yeah.
However, it's still important for them to try and do it and fail and get back up on that wire.
Yeah. All right. So, Katy, we ask every guest, which hasn't been very many people on our show, if there is a peak or valley in your life that you would like to share right now.
I actually, even though I'm such a glass half full person, I am going to share a valley because I think that it helps,
Okay.
it helps
Yes.
people to understand, that it's not always like sunshine and rainbows, everything. Right. And my valley is that I've had a lot of family members this year, especially this summer, actually, pretty recently, that are dealing with a lot of health issues and some major health issues, right? Diagnoses and those kinds of things. And so it's really helping me to kind of like reflect even more so about the time that I have with these family members and to be able to use that time more wisely, because that's also part of like our abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset, right? Abundance is also around time, not
Yeah.
just around money. So how can I spend even more time with my loved ones while they're here, right? And to be able to also reflect on my own emotions around it without it affecting their journey too. So there's been a lot of life lessons that I'm going through right now. And yet I think it's also a beautiful lesson too, right? In order to slow down what I'm doing and then also be very intentional about where I spend my time and who I spend it with.
Thank you for sharing that. That's really beautiful. And yeah, it's poignant, That's like the hard thing about our frail bodies and life, it is fragile. And also it's really beautiful when we can appreciate
Yes.
it and recognize it for what
Yes.
it really is.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Katy, what is a way that people can work with you if they are interested?
There are a few ways. They can come to my website at katychenmazzara.com. There are links to sign up for a session if they wanted to see how, I work. And then I'm on social media at Katy Chen Mazzara also. And I also have a free resource for everyone who's listening called the Mindful Money Mastery Guide. And in that guide, they can rewrite some of those beliefs, in the stories. And then there's also a way to look at tracking, what's been going on in your finances and then what the emotions look like. So there's a little bit of that tracking thing that we were just talking about in there. And yeah, just a couple of different things for you to get started, right?
Wonderful.
And, and then going through that guide, you'll be signed up for my newsletters and you can also email me and look at talking to me about, what you're working through.
Wonderful. Well, we'll link that in our show notes, of course. I am
Great.
so happy that you could come and talk with us.
Yes,
It's so
me too.
good to connect. And I'm just so grateful for you and all the things that I've learned from you. It's been a joy.
Me too.
And we'll keep knowing you, of course. But I just want to take this moment to say I'm grateful for you and thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been my pleasure. And I'm so grateful to know you too, as well. And, get to be, friends with you too, Malika. Thank you.
All right, let's take a break. And when we come back, we will share our peaks and valleys.
The perfect lunch combo. That first bite of your favorite sub, followed by ice-cold Pepsi. Add a couple of friends, and now that's next level. Suddenly, the laughs get louder, the stories keep flowing, and the food tastes better. Because Pepsi brings out more flavor, more fun, and more of the moment. Food deserves Pepsi. Grab a Pepsi Zero Sugar today.
And we're back with peaks and valleys because in life there are always peaks and there are always valleys. This is an odd episode, so Malika is up with a peak.
All right. So I recently lost my wallet,
Ooh,
which is not a peak.
no, that's true.
I don't know. I think it either fell out of my bag or I left it on a seat. But I remember paying for something with cash, and then I think I had an appointment and I went home, and the next day I realized I didn't have my wallet.
Oof.
So I called around some places. I retraced my steps a little bit, and basically I was at the 48-hour mark where I was like, okay, it's time to just cancel everything. Do what you do.
Yeah.
It's not,
We've all been there.
we've all been there, but what a hassle. And I looked in the mailbox. Somebody put my wallet in there.
It's amazing.
Just like a good Samaritan. So cash was still inside.
Wow. They drove from wherever. You have no idea where you left
Yes.
it and dropped it off in your mailbox.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So huge peak. It made me feel like just taken care of. Like the universe has your back. And
This
grateful.
happens,
Yeah.
I shared with you that a while back, Sinai lost her wallet. It was Mardi Gras. She's in New Orleans. She's out partying. She lost her wallet and she had to come home in 2 days and she didn't have her ID. And so we were all kind of, what is she going to do? She had to call the DMV and, try to figure out what the airport policies were. And the day before her flight, her wallet was turned in to the college campus and she got it all back. And it was like, what are the odds of that? There are great people everywhere, is the reminder.
Yes.
So many wonderful people.
I feel like everybody has lost a wallet at some point. So if you find one, you do what you can to get it back,
Yes, that's true.
Unless you are really looking for wallets, Some people are.
Unless you're one of those
A
people.
few people are, but most people, I think.
Well, yeah, because we've all lost wallets that have not come back.
Yeah.
But yes, yeah, exactly. Majority of people want to return something to the person and understands what that feeling is like. Absolutely.
All right, Azizi, what's your valley?
Well, I'm sick. That is my valley, Malika. And I know you were very familiar with this feeling.
Hey, it's still a valley.
I don't get sick that often. I don't get sick that often. This time it's kind of predictable. I mean, I got back from the cruise, so that's where it starts. And I was feeling a little tickle, but there's a lot of stress involved with getting ready for the cruise. And then right when I got back, I had to host Ilea's graduation party 2 days later. And then I had this week off of downtime. And that is exactly when I got sick. And the lining is that it was nice to have the time to just be sick and not have to worry about anything else, really. So I'm grateful for that. But at the same time, it's not fun being sick. So that's my valley.
Well, I hope you can get a little bit of rest before. I guess you can't.
Tomorrow.
That would be now.
I did, get the rest. Now it's just the slog.
I hope you get better soon. That brings us to the end. Azizi, let's leave on a happier thought. What are you going to try this week?
Psychically leave myself at Orange Theory. After I get better, where are some other areas that it would serve me to try to get my foot in the door? What about you, Malika?
I am going to maybe check out my condiments.
Oh, time to clear the condiments.
Maybe so.
Yeah, go into the next season, refrigerator zero.
Yeah. It's funny, I have that Lazy Susan, but there's really only 2 things we ever use on that. What the heck is in there? It is kind of like just a back zone of the fridge that is
As I was clearing it, like, in the middle, I was like, "What is that?" It was like an old avocado
Oh,
from, like, who knows when that was just small enough to hide amongst the condiments. It's like, "Okay, this is gotta
yeah.
go."
All right. Well, thank you for listening to this episode. You can find our show notes in the episode description. If you like us, please rate, review, and tell a friend. And don't forget to follow us.
Send us a message at happierladies@gmail.com.
Our show was edited by Magnus Bjorgum, and our theme music was created by Wyatt Muncie.
You can find us on Instagram and YouTube at Happier Ladies and at happierladies.substack.com. All right, Malika, have a happier week.
Have a happier week, Azizi. Bye.
Bye.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.